Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your proud host, Howard Kravitz, along with co-host Picks and Ponies right below me, Pete Visco, host of Pacific Horse Players, Noah Maher, and on the bottom right, the host of Bet and Boozin', Kyle Roscoe. We are here, gentlemen, to discuss the Preakness. This is our Preakness preview show. Welcome, everyone. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen and the notification bell on the top right, and please smash that like button below the video player. Pete Visco, I'm going to go to you. Very exciting. This is the 150th running of the Preakness, and for people that don't know, this is the last one that's going to be run at literally Old Hilltop at Pimlico, as they are going to be raising the track, so to speak. They're going to tear it down and then build it back up, and it's going to be a Laurel for a few years coming up.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a Laurel guy. I live much closer to Laurel. I'm not a huge fan of going all the way to Pimlico, so that sounds fantastic to me. I will be at the Preakness hopefully next year then, in the next 2 years or however many years it's at Laurel. Now that it's here in the good part of Maryland, then I'm ready to go.
There we go. Very exciting. Not too far from Pete Visco's home. No, let me go to you. The Preakness gets a little bit of short shrift every year. Of course, throw the hangover after the Derby. We have not seen as many horses in the last 10, 15 years go on to the Preakness, but a surprise entry, at least I think a little bit of surprise, in the heavy favorite from the Derby, Journalism, back in the Preakness.
Yeah, I think we've got a pretty salty field this year. You got the favorite, as you mentioned, in Journalism. We've got a couple horses that are kind of up and coming. You got a Baffert in the field. You got a Lucas in the field who ended up winning the race last year. And a couple other horses that we're familiar with. Sandman also in the Derby is a little disappointing, but hopefully can come back strong for our boy Charlie. Then some other couple up-and-comers that we will talk about. A lot of speed, too, so we'll get into that shortly.
Yeah, 9-horse field, Kyle, with some fresh faces as well. I think the story really is, do you just go Journalism and you single him horizontally, just big win bet and just, go with him, or do you go with a fresh face? I think that's really the story of this year's Preakness.
Oh, yeah, and Journalism is going to be one of those horses we talk about a lot, betting structure-wise. You're going to have to use him if you think he's going to romp, or you completely toss him and you try and get some value elsewhere. So either way, it's a very interesting field and a very interesting betting race from that standpoint as well.
Very interesting. Well, let's go ahead and look at that field right now, and then we're going to go bring up the PPs. And we'll talk about every horse very briefly, and then we will discuss the race flow and discuss our top choices as well. So here's the field, guys. We've got goal-oriented for Flavien Prat and Bob Baffert, 6-1. Journalism is going to be the favorite. 8-5 morning line will be lower than that, most likely, for Rispoli and McCarthy. American Promise for the coach and Nick Juarez, 15-1. Heart of Honor, interesting overseas threat for Safi Osborne, 12-1. Pay Billy, local threat. Raul Mena gets the mount at 20-1. River Thames, Irad, 9-2. Sure, take plenty of money for Pletcher. The popular Sandman, Johnny V, taking over for Jose Ortiz, 4-1. Mark Casse. Clever again, an up-and-comer for Steve Asmussen. Jose Ortiz decides to go there instead of Sandman. Interesting jockey musical chairs there, 5-1. And then you have Gosker, Luis Saez at 20-1. Pete, when you saw the draw, of course, the draw doesn't matter nearly as much here as it does in the Derby. It is a mile and 3/16 race. There is plenty run to the first turn, but the draw always matter. Your initial thoughts when you saw the draw?
Yeah, I didn't. Nothing jumped out to me from the draw. I mean, I'm not a huge draw guy to begin with anyway, but I don't think anybody was severely hurt or helped. I mean, I guess the one thing is you get a Baffert horse on the rail who's got speed, so that generally, although I think the difference there, Prat, and we'll talk about the pace later, Prat's not necessarily a, hey, I need to gun it kind of jockey. He's usually smarter and plays the race better. So, but that was the only one that jumped out. It's like, hey, you get a Baffert speed horse on the rail. That generally means there's probably going to be at least some pace, like Noah mentioned earlier.
Yeah, when you saw the draw, Kyle and Noah, Kyle, let me go to you. Who do you think, we're going to show the pace projector in a minute. Do you think that Flavien has to send from the inside, or do you think the coach, probably American Promise, might have the lead? Or some people think Clever again, the 8 is actually the fastest one early. We'll take a look at what time form says, but what's your thought in terms of jockey intent here, Kyle?
I mean, Noah said it best. There's a ton of speed in here, but the goal Arians had won setting way off the lead. Granted, he was very green. Well, if we show the replay, you'll see it. If not, go watch it. Climbing the whole way, was wide, and ended up running by. You could argue, main special weight, running 6 at Santa Anita is a lot different, which obviously it is, but he showed that he can rate off the pace last time. I think Flavian's going to be this is going to be a jockey's race for him, and obviously you wouldn't trust anyone more if you do like goal oriented than Flavian. Just seeing what American Promise does to the 3, which in turn determines what journalism will do with the 2 being in the middle of those 2.
Yeah, and we'll talk about each horse individually in a moment. But Noah, very quickly, the pace projector. They do have goal-oriented on the lead, with several horses riding behind, including American Promise, Heart of Honor, the foreign invader who ran a very good race in Dubai last time, and then just outside of him, at least this is the way that time form sees it, would be Clever again. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't really disagree with too much. I understand the idea that Pratt's not really a send guy, but I really think that goal oriented's really only got one way to go. Like Kyle said, he came off of it in the debut, but won impressively last time. It kind of proved that debut wasn't a fluke. So just considering the fact that last year Baffert had a similar horse in Imagination who was kind of up and coming. He was second in the Santa Anita Derby, but obviously didn't qualify. Ended up running in the Preakness, and they decided to, I don't know if it was necessarily him or Dettori last year, but decided not to necessarily press the pace. In a way, they didn't, because they were 4 or 5 wide, which I'm not really sure why that was the plan. But either way, after that happened last year, I find it hard to believe that they're not going to be sending from the inside.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the field. I think you're probably right. And Noah, we'll start with you and then go Kyle, then go Pete and me, and in order. Very quickly, just about a minute, guys, on your thoughts on each horse. Noah, you're just talking about goal oriented. This is a horse that I absolutely loved, as you know, because you were there with me 2 weeks ago. That was a main play for me in the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge early, and that got me close to the top of the leaderboard. I mean, it wasn't overly creative. He was actually, I thought he went off at a price, frankly, value to me at about 8 to 5. He's going to go for the lead most likely. This is a bit of a surprise entry to me, Noah, and I don't want to spoil my picks, but it sort of feels like a substitute, that Baffert feels like he needs to have one in the race, so he's just going with this one. This is a very, very talented horse, but a very, very tough ask also.
Yeah, it's a very tough ask. And there was a horse in the Derby that also came from the West Coast in Baeza, who that was a pretty big ask. And we saw that he ran a very good third. And I think he's, getting good at the right time. He's got another work under his belt, which I do like, and worked very well, 47-3 back on May 11th, which I believe was Sunday. And not a lot of people know this, but I'm of the opinion that the rail was a pretty bad place to be on Derby Day. And he was very impressive down on the rail for most of the race. And if you go to the chart, the horses that were second, third, and fourth did not finish anywhere near him. They were, I believe, 7th, 8th, and one of them actually ended up pulling up. So
it's true.
It's not really like that pace held together. And boy, was he really good. So the fact that they're coming back in 2 weeks feels like it's got to be a positive.
Interesting. Okay, so Noah sounds like he's much more positive on goal-oriented than I am. I mean, what do you say about journalism, Kyle? I know this was a big play for you, and I guess it's a disappointing because he didn't win, but he paired up his 102 buyer. Look, the connections feel like he's ready to go. Who are we to doubt him? Not easy to come back after 2 weeks, but he is the moto obvious favorite here in this race.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not too much to say about him, as you said, but Umberto did everything that I wanted in the Derby. You said, as you mentioned, I had a big play on him. I know a bunch of our other friends, Matt Miller included, had a big play with journalism as well. My whole goal was to be alive to $1,500 by journalism at the end of the day. Got it. Obviously didn't run so well, but shows back up here. Obviously, he's the best horse in the race based on numbers. If McCarthy trusts him enough to send him back out here instead of waiting for something like the Belmont, as Noah said, that's got to be somewhat of a positive to show that, hey, the connections have that. But the problem is that he's going to be at most 6 to 5, and probably could even be lower. But we'll get to the betting in a little bit, but he's going to be the Moto Obvious single for a lot of people.
Pete Dewey Lucas is certainly capable of winning this race and big races over his career. Did it with Seize the Gray last year, an upset. American Promise feels a little Seize the Gray-ish, sort of same kind of style, a little bit inconsistent, capable of running a big one. I have to believe that this horse is going to be forward. He wanted to be forward in the Derby until, let's just say Martin Garcia decided to make a right-hand turn out of the gate. Just watch our Thursday podcast for my rant, and you'll hear enough about that. But anyway, past history, this one I think is absolutely a dead cent, Pete, and a little bit interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's funny the way the draw fell that I land on this one because this is the most confusing horse in the race for me because there was a lot of love for him. And I mean, he was 12-1 going into the Derby. There was a lot of sort of sleeper love. And like you said, he got taken out a bit and he was a little closer to a hot pace than probably he needed to be. And who knows, he ran terrible in the end. But I think there was so much love for this horse and he's a big horse is what everyone says. So I feel like you want to just get him out, get him going. And I agree with you. He's done his best running when he's been either on or sitting just off the lead. So you feel like he has to go. I think the difference between him and Seize the Gray got, if I remember correctly, got a pretty comfortable lead last year where I just don't imagine that's going to happen with American Promise. I think there's just enough speed in here to make it difficult, but I don't know. His best races definitely fit not to the journalism level, but to the level of everyone else for the most part. I just don't know what to do with him. He's pretty inconsistent.
Well, interesting enough, he's a huge horse. So is goal oriented. Goal oriented, the number one, is huge. So
yeah,
Journalism's going to look a little smaller, but I mean, he's obviously the best athlete of the three. That start is going to be very, very interesting. My eyes are going to be laser focused on the 1, 2, and 3 hole at the start of this year's Preakness. I'll talk about Heart of Honor very quickly. Very interesting entrant coming in from Maidan, finished second, just barely lost a tough one to Amir Daytona. You see Golden Vacoma 3 back, who's a talented horse. Look, he's got, honor code, honor AP, a nice West Coast horse. Was the sire Scat Daddy on the dam side, so a little bit of a turf influence there. Might want it a little bit wet, and it might be a little bit wet. You never know. Look, this is a complete mystery to me. I don't think he's going to be good enough. We'll see where he's placed, but I give the connections a lot of credit for being here in a race that, other than journalism, feels maybe a little bit wide open. So they're taking a stab. I don't really mind that. And I always love a foreign entry in the race. And was Triple Crown nominated, by the way, from the start, as you can see by the crown right there. Pay Billy, Noah. This is a horse that won the Federico Tessio. Nice story, very consistent. Looks like more mid-pack, but again, on buyers, just looks way too slow.
Yeah, it's a tough ask for him. And I know he won the Federico Tessio pretty well. He was down on the inside on the far turn, and I think a longer shot kind of passed him. Then he fought his way back, very tenacious type, but obviously that was against much less. So really got to step up his game. But I know Pete loves to see this. He'd love to see the local entries take their shot against some of the best.
Might as well, right? I mean, if they're coming this way, might as well take the shot. I don't see it, but you might as well. Why not?
Kyle, this is one of a few horses in this race that I think is very polarizing, in my opinion, and maybe by the bettors. River Thames, 9-2, Pletcher. I think that morning line's a little low, but I understand why, because it's Pletcher and Irad, so they're going to take money. There's no question this horse is talented. This horse has a little Owen Almighty kind of feel, who completely outran his odds in the Derby. I think distance is really the main question here.
Yep, and that's exactly what I was going to get into, because I was actually hoping that they turn this horse back coming into here, but now they're going to take a shot after he ran so well in the Fountain of Youth in the Bluegrass. I understand the shot. It's polarizing, Howard, to me, and I'm on the bad side of the spectrum of the polarization. I just don't think he wants this type of distance. If you go back through the dam side, McLean's Music is usually a better sprinter sire. Then Discreet Cat was a complete sprinter. Proportionality was a complete sprinter and a decent one at that. So it seems to me like Pletcher obviously has a lot of faith taking a shot, but this is one that's going to take some decent amount of money that me personally I'm going to be against, because I've been on him completely the last 2 times he's ran, and he's disappointed me both times, unfortunately. but he's going to be taking money, and that hopefully could be a bump up to some other horses that I like on the little bit of a longer shot end.
He also did receive a fantastic inside trip at Keeneland. In
Mhm.
theory, he's not going to get the same trip here, but he's a very talented New York bred for Windstar. Sandman, Pete. Boy, this horse, talk about polarizing. Great name, great story, you know, Metallica, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is he only has one race on his page, and that's the Arkansas Derby that really even has a chance in this race. And that was a complete, total meltdown. Interesting jockey switch to Johnny V. I'm assuming that's because Jose Ortiz has decided to go with the Asperson runner. There is a bunch of speed, though, in this race, Pete, and I could see Sandman. I hate to use the word clunk up for our good friends Matt Miller, but I think this horse is going to run better than he ran in the Derby. And if he runs a big one, wouldn't shock me here, to be honest.
No, I mean, he's a weird one too because, again, yeah, if he runs that Arkansas, so if the pace heats up, if we do get some of these speed horses out there a little bit, and he gets a setup, and we know I feel like Johnny V will probably, he'll have this horse on the outside. We know Johnny V's not a dip to the rail, weave through horses kind of jock. He's going to probably be second, third over, whatever he's going to be. But at least this horse will be in the clear. And if some of those horses ahead of him start coming back, he'll be running late. It's just the point of will he be running from too far back, or will he just have enough, or will they get away from him? But I mean, his best race, it's definitely as good. If journalism just craps the bed for some reason, wouldn't shock me by any stretch if Sandman actually wins the race. I don't know. Noah, real quick, because you're the horse guy. What about the foot thing that came out? Is that something that would concern you? Do you know anything about the sort of the foot issue he had and whether it has an impact, especially coming back 2 weeks or anything?
I actually didn't hear that. I've heard that with quite a few. I know, obviously, we heard with Rodriguez, and then I think Grande had a similar issue going into the Derby, which is why they scratched him on Oaks Day. Did that come out recently, Pete? Because
it just came out like yesterday, I
Last
think. When
24 hours.
I don't even understand. It was something about he had like it was sort of tender, so they glue something
They
about
glued
glue.
the shoes. Yeah, they're glue on shoes.
On. They used the glue on shoes instead. It was nothing that I could make any heads or tails of one way or the other. So I didn't know if it's a complete negative or if it's something that is fine and you can just move forward with. But
interesting.
Yeah.
So we're filming this. Everyone, we're filming this on Tuesday, late afternoon. Everyone, just a little perspective. Go ahead, Kyle.
So I'm actually reading something to my left here. It looks like, according to Mark Cassie, he said his feet are in good order now. We were able to put a regular nailed shoe on him for the Preakness. So it looks like it's in Cassie's mind, everything's recovered. So he's able to go back to normal shoes. But yeah, they did use glue on shoes for minder hoof tenderness earlier this week. So
there you go.
Clever again. This is a horse that I'm very interested in. Ran unusually for Asmussen as a baby last year in one of those 4.5 furlong races to a very talented horse called Dreamway. Has come back really good. Obviously, he's got to get the distance. This is a Pharaoh out of a Galileo mare. Clever again is going to show a lot of speed. Can he get the distance? Can he rate if necessary? There's a bunch of questions, but you can't doubt the talent of Clever again. This is a very interesting entrant that I think is going to take some money based on a lot of reasons. Jose Ortiz with the mount on Clever again. And then Gosker, who's a horse that, boy, this horse really, really stuck me in the locker, as Noah knows, and Kyle as well, in the grade 1 gamble at Keeneland when I sort of liked him a little bit and should have gone with him and faded him for some dumbass reason and went with Hypnotist instead. But anyway, past history, Noah. This horse can run all day based on breeding. Again, he's a little bit slow. Another interesting new face.
Yeah, it seems like he's getting better with distance and with races under his belt. After they won the Lexington, you could kind of read between the lines, and it seemed like Walsh said that this was kind of the plan all along. Nice win there when we were there, like you said. It's kind of hard to imagine him not getting a good trip in behind the speed, but I think the big question that we're all asking is if he's good enough against this group.
No doubt. Again, the breeding, this is a Tappet mare that was very good long. Nyquist obviously can get the distance. Real interesting, guys. So let's go ahead. with our top picks on the bottom of the screen. I'll let each one of you discuss your feelings on the race. Let me take this banner off the screen. We'll go with our top 3 picks. We'll just go in order of what we see on the screen, except I will go last. We'll go Pete, Kyle, and then Noah. Let me read off first for our audio listeners. I am going with the upset. I'm going 8-7 in the 150th running of the Preakness. Pete's going 2-9-8. Kyle's going 2-8-9. And Noah's going 2-1-8. So 3 of the 4 people on the screen, probably the smarter people, are going to go with the favorite journalism. Pete, you're going to go 2-9-8. You're going to throw a Gosker in there for second, and then you're going to go Clever again third. You think this is all journalism?
Yeah, Kyle. Obviously, me and Kyle are the smart ones on the screen with the same top 3. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the race, you figure if journalism comes back in any of the same form that he had going into the Derby, then he's just the best horse in the field. We don't anticipate the distance obviously being a problem. I mean, the 1.25 miles wasn't necessarily a problem, but he just looks the best. He seems to be the best. All the other ones that are contenders, for the most part, except for a couple, are sort of up and comers and just haven't done what he's done yet. So just based on past performance and current form, he looks to be the best. Second, I went with Gosker, just more for what you and Noah said. I think the breeding, from a breeding standpoint, seems like he'll only get better. So he has improved as the distances got longer, and it seems like the longer the better for him. And I do think he can sit that sort of mid-pack second flight trip if there is some speed. And then I'm going with Clever again, who you have on top. So you'll talk more about. My biggest concern with him, I think he's super talented. I think the breeding wise, he should be fine. I just thought if he goes, because we've only seen him be on the lead. So if he has to go to the lead, we just don't know if he could sit and pass horses. If he has to go to the lead, there's just other speed to contend with. So I figured if he runs great and he's just really good, I think he's a win contender. But if he gets mixed up in that pace duel, then you never know what's going to happen.
Before we get the other 3, I do want to show the time form final number. Everyone look on the right side of the screen if not familiar with time form. And this is just another speed rating to think about. They have goal oriented with 112 and 107. Journalism 117, 119, 121. And as I get out my time form information, we're big fans here of time form. This distance, which is not exactly 1.25 miles, but it's close enough to that. One length that's approximately 1.3 points. So if you do the math there, journalism approximately 7, 8, 9 points faster. A good, I'd say 5-6 lengths faster than goal oriented in theory. Just wanted to bring that up. American Promise does have a 118, which absolutely would fit in this race if he can run back to that Virginia Derby. Let me go full screen here. Heart of Honor way too slow. 103, 91, 91. Payability again too slow. A good 15 points off, which in theory is about 11, 12 lengths too slow. River Thames definitely has some numbers that fit with a 115 and 117. The question is, does he want the further distance? Sandman, again, that one number at the 118. But other than that, really not good enough in here, again, in theory. Clever, again, keeps getting better. Certainly the 106 not fast enough. 113, he still has to improve, but that's only 3 lifetime starts, but he does have to make up a few lengths as well. And Gosker, again, a little bit slow as well, several lengths faster. So I guess if you go off of that, gentlemen, it's a no-brainer, right? But that's why they run the race. We shall see. Let's go to our next analyst, and that's going to be Kyle. You're going to go also with journalism with Clever again, second, and Gosker, the same 3 speed, different order.
I said smart people, smart people stick together. But yeah, I mean, I won't hit too much because Pete already talked about the 3 horses. I love the trip journalism is going to get, especially with the pace in front of him. Pete said if there's any good enough, any as good as what he's been, should win this. And basically everyone else might be fighting for second or third. My point with Clever again, which is the horse you have on top, for me, if he can sit, he's an absolute win contender. I just don't see a winning trip based on the races he's run in this race. He could be just as talented as everyone else in this field, but the problem is just the way they're going to run this race in theory. I just don't see a winning trip, especially if he's going to be 3 wide on the speed. That's all. But again, completely understand the pick, Howard, and I do like the fact that you're trying to get a little bit of value. And Gosker, my one angle is just the trainer intent. You touched on it a little bit. Noah touched on it. I think that Brendan Walsh said that this is the trip he's going to take all along. Go to the Lexington. Obviously won pretty impressively that day, to be completely honest. Didn't get the number I thought he was going to get from that race, but stayed at Keeneland, has been working very well, and ships to the plan out to the Preakness. And I think he could run a really good one in front of horses like Sandman and Journalism. Might not be good enough on the win end, but might be good enough to stick around for a little bit of a piece.
And the great thing, Noah, about pace figs and horse racing handicapping is you can look at many different figs out there, whether you're a Rags, Thorograph, Time Form, Buyer. The bottom line is you and I are both a little bit interested in Clever Again. I know you have Clever Again third, and I'll let you talk. But look, Journalism's paired up 102s. Clever Again, Grant was on the lead, probably a relatively easy trip. Did run a 101 last time. So he's, in theory, as fast as Journalism if you go by the Buyers. Again, there's a lot of factors. A number is a number, etc. But Noah, you are going to go Journalism also. You're the only one on the screen that believes in goal-oriented here for second. How does he finish second? Do you figure he lets American Promise goes and just sits and finds a way to, get up for second as Journalism blows by? Is that your vision?
No, I think my vision is goal-oriented and Clever Again, just kind of go 1-2, and they take them 1-2 around the track, and then Journalism sits 4th or 5th and then goes by them, probably about the 16th pole. I'm not really fascinated all that much by some of the closers. I'm not really a big Sandman fan. I don't really think there's a ton of room for him to improve. River Thames, I'm not really a big fan of, and we talked about it. I don't think the distance really suits him well. So I just kind of think those two take him 1-2, maybe American Promise ruins that a little bit. But with Journalism in the top pick, I'm a West Coast guy, obviously. I know Michael McCarthy very well, and he's a very reserved guy. So for him to come back with a horse of this quality in 2 weeks, I think speaks volumes. So I would be very surprised, or not very surprised. I'd be, pretty surprised if he wasn't able to get the job done, because I just think there's a lot of intent. But if you're of the opinion, Howard, like you, for all the viewers out there, and you think that he's beatable, I think there are probably 5 or 6 horses you could go with as well.
Yeah, here's my thought, guys. Obviously, Journalism is a horse to beat, just like he was in the Derby. My feeling here, and we're speculating, but that's what you have to do. We're playing the stock market. I think a 100 Buyer wins this race. I have a hard time believing Journalism's going to improve off those 102s. Look, he might be feeling great, guys. He might win by 5. I'm not saying he's not going to win, although I'm picking against him. I just don't see like a major move forward here. I think it's a lot to ask for a move forward. So I think about a 100 Buyer is going to win this race. And if I believe a 100 Buyer is going to win this race, to me, that puts Clever Again squarely in the mix. And Kyle, you're exactly right. He might have to do something he's never done before, but I'm going to get the price to find out. Just
Correct.
For full disclosure, I do have a future bet on him at 15 to 1 in this race. And he's going to be 3 times less than that. So I like my future bet here. He might have to rate. I don't know if he can. We'll find out. Maybe he's just quick enough guys to go to the lead. Maybe the 1 and 3 sort of play little bumper cars. They don't break great. I don't think River Thames is like sending hard. So I think, you mentioned the 3 wide, Kyle. I don't think he's going to be 3 wide. I think Jose's going to break aggressively, look to his left, and evaluate the situation. Yep. If goal-oriented or American Promise wants to go really hard, I think he can just sit off one of them or both of them. I just see him getting a very good trip. Yes, he's got to get the distance. Yes, he's got to rate. I get all that. I'm going to be playing a very, for me, a large Dutch exacta Journalism Clever Again. I just don't like a lot of the others, guys. I don't, I just don't see where it's going to happen. It certainly could. I agree with you. No, I'm not a Sandman guy, although I do have him in third, just because I think it might fall apart at the end. You could pick up some pieces here, but there's just too many holes for me with a lot of other horses. And to me, Clever Again is absolutely the horse that you should be interested in this race if you don't like Journalism.
Well,
final thought,
I'll tell
Kyle?
you what, this if you're playing Clever Again, it kind of reminds me a lot of the 2022 Preakness with early voting, right? Because it was the same type of scenario. Early voting hadn't run very much at all. Running in races like Clever Again shows up in the Preakness, supposed to be a fast pace, doesn't get it, and he takes them all the way. That's also why I think from that race in particular is why you might get even money on journalism, maybe even Epicenter was 6-5 in that race. And that after losing to Rich Strike, and he kind of laid over the field in figures, much like journalism has here. So the price is going to be interesting to see what I wouldn't be surprised if you get 4-5. And from that logic that I just said, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if you get 6-5 as well, because you're not going to see very many horses in this field going off at 30-1. So It's just not the way it works anymore. But look, it'll be a very interesting race nonetheless. And also, Clever Against Breeding, by the way, sorry to go on a completely different point. That's the Galileo mare. That's the wild card for me there. That's really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, Pete, I'll let you have the final say. Look, we've seen a lot of upsets. Cloud Computing comes to mind. There's been a lot of Bernardini. There's been a lot of fresh faces win this race. So for people just to hand it over to journalism coming off of 2 weeks, even if he is feeling great, I think you need to keep an open mind here. That being said, journalism is obviously the horse to beat.
Yeah, it's one of those weird races where it's either journalism, you either love journalism, or you can go 4 different ways and you can make solid cases. So those are interesting races. Like when we talk a lot of horizontals. You say, okay, I think Kyle mentioned this at the beginning. Do you sort of single journalism, or do you like single journalism on one ticket and then you have to go like 4 or 5 deep on a backup to say, look, if journalism doesn't win, all hell can break loose, and I don't know which one it could be. And that's what we've seen in the past. So,
and the payout grows exponentially.
And the payout goes, the payout will be nuts because everybody's going to have journalism on their ticket.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have coverage all week on the HHH Racing podcast for the Black Eyed Susan Day Friday, and of course Preakness Day on Saturday. For Noah Maher, Kyle Roscoe, and Pete Visco, this has been your host Howard Kravitz. Crush your bets in the 150th running of the Preakness Stakes on Saturday at Pimlico. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.